Memories. How do we keep memories? Some people are going to go for albums. You have your photos in your album. Others are going to go for a biography. They're going to write about those things they want to always remember. But also stories are also often taken in audio format, video format, and whatever format. Our eyes and mind connects very well if we actually look and touch and feel of something that we believe, we have read, we have watched, and we have always actually heard about different stories within the Christian faith. The museum was opened in 2016 and years are counting. The very first of its kind in the region, and it tells the stories but also upholds and champions tourism, faith tourism in the region. Now we have a privilege this week on Friday is actually the Uganda Martyrs Day, and the museum also captures this story or memory or whatever you may be actually wanting to call it. Today's episode, just like you saw in our flyers a few days ago, is focused on telling the story of Uganda Martyrs. And maybe if we had representatives, if we had those that were coming from the region, who was it and what's the story behind? Let's get to roll with this short break.
Bananga bami n'abachara naze kubanyonyora nti bwoba ngo ndino mukoro gona gorina oyagala kuyingira nyumba orina imbaga orina urumbe orina buri karonde yona ngo yagara bagutere ku Zoom, YouTube wamne ku Facebook yagara kugama nta ayite TV be basobora kubera nga batikorera ko burungi nyo bayina kamera nunyi nkambwe barikiriya nyo bamanyi kibakora iby'uruzungu iby'uruganda iby'urunyankore buri karonde yona bagutera ko butezi no rwece mu kwana jyafi tusubwa yangwa mangu.
EastAfrican TV, empowering you. You're watching EastAfrican TV, empowering you.
Yes, thank you very much. Welcome from that short one. I am Sankara Berhanga and the show is called Faces of Uganda. We profile those people we believe even when they are long gone, we are not going to forget them and are not going to rub them off the history of Uganda. Today we are privileged to have someone that is going to share with us the story around Martyrs Day and everything it had to do with the faith, the Christianity faith, and why actually we cannot easily forget them. But how did it happen? Did we have anyone from the region that was also, persecuted over that? All those in today's show. Now, drums roll, and I welcome in our guest tonight. Thank you very much, Nancy. You are welcome. We are live on East TV, and you could say hi to the viewer. Should we go to roll? Yes.
I greet you all in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, whom we believe in.
Yes.
And I am happy to be hosted to talk about something that has really taken us this far, which is the faith that we believe in.
Yes.
And I'm waiting.
Okay. Wow. Now that is the pretty importance of keeping information, especially when you hear about museums. Like I earlier told you, Nancy is as young or as old as I could be, or perhaps as you could be. She was not there at the time, all this happened. We are talking about 1885, I think,
yes,
up to around 1887. That time, really, I think even our grandparents are kind of long gone, but the museum is here to, tell the story. Now, Nancy, before we get to the story of Martyrs, we could first hear from you about the museum, the background and how it came to be around and why it is actually important.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, we as a church, we have something big to tell out there. We have a lot of information that most of us or most of you may not know. So this museum came as a result of telling the story and the story about revival movement, the story about the late Janan Luwum, the story about how Ankoli or the cathedral, how we call it Ruharo, the cathedral, how it came to be, where it stands, how many bishops, how many archbishops, and then of course the martyrs that we are celebrating this year. So all that is something that we need to tell the world. They need to know, because we have something that most of the dioceses may not have, if I may say. So it was inaugurated in 2016 by the president in September on 11th. And by that time, I must say I was not around. By that time it was inaugurated.
Yes.
But nevertheless, I'm around. And basically we sell faith-based tourism to the people. There are very many types of tourism, but for us we are basically talking about faith-based tourism, because we want people to know God, but also get to know God in an interesting way. Yeah, enjoy what you are doing. Basically that.
Okay, so we're talking about faith tourism, and in case you thought in the region there's nowhere you could actually go and get to hear these stories and get to know how all these things unfolded, then you now know that such a place exists. Maybe not to cheat the viewer, you could also first steal 2 of your minutes, share, because you talked about Ruharo and I don't know, you could first snippet of what actually really happened and the history of Christianity perhaps in the region, if that is known.
Okay, the little bit that I can say from the time, you well understand this here was not the first church. We don't say that St. James was the first church in Ankole. And you know that before all the dioceses came in place, it was one Ankole region as a diocese. So that was West Ankole, South Ankole, Northwest, and North region. So we had very many dioceses, but later from North Ankole, then they started splitting them in series, and now Ankole as a region we have 5 dioceses. So that is a brief. But then the first church, looking at all those dioceses where they are coming from, the first church was in Kamkuzi. If some of you have visited Kamkuzi, there is another church that is being built, but besides it, there is a wall that is still standing. That was the first church in Ankole as a region. So the Omugabi then and the chiefs and the prime minister then, they realized the church needed land. So we are proud and we appreciate the late Nuambaguta, who was the prime minister then, who gave the church this whole land. So this whole land was given to us by Nuambaguta, who is the late, by then was a prime minister, and he was among the first people that got baptized in Ankole. So from then, they built one of the houses where they translated the Bible from English to Runyankole Richiga, which is old. I must say there are 3 buildings that are above 100 years on this hill. Those were the first 3 buildings that were built on this hill.
I was still wondering, when was the Bible, which year was the Bible translated to Runyankole?
The Bible, for right now we count 53 years of Nyankole Chiga.
Yes.
Yes, because we celebrated 50 years in 2019.
So our papas who are 60 plus years at their time entering the church,
They participated, they must have participated in the translation.
no, I mean, whenever they went to the church, the priest would actually translate directly from English to
Yes, you would just have to understand it. But we were lucky that they translated it to Nyankole Chiga. And that was a man called Mujimba, if you have heard about Mujimba, and then Stanley Smith, those who have heard about them.
Okay.
So those were the guys that helped us to understand well. This house where we are standing,
Yes.
it is 104 years.
Oh my.
Yes, it's a museum itself. So it is this house and another building which was called Chendugu, which was a hospital.
In Bara mixed.
Yes, in Imbara Mixed Primary School, and another house which is close to the Dean's home, the other side of Imbara High School.
Yes.
Those were the three buildings. So we are lucky that the Omugabi then thought about the church and realized that the church needed land and needed to spread out the gospel.
Okay, well, I think you're now comfortable in case you just say, Nancy, you're going to tell us matters really? Were you there? I know that Nancy is well equipped with that history, and that was just a big point to prove to you that where we are and the person we have is actually well qualified to share with us the story of Uganda Martyrs as we count a few days, just two from, we expect this to be 3rd June, which is Friday, and it will be celebrated countrywide, just like it is the norm annually, and the Ankole Diocese, if I'm right, is championing the organizations for this year's celebrations. Is that so true?
Yes, it is true, and our bishop is the cluster head of all other 5 dioceses. So there are 5, but our bishop is the cluster head.
Okay. Now, in case you were wondering why we're here, now the 2 years we talked about from 1885 to 1887, that time really happened a lot, just like Nancy is about to tell us. But what we can authoritatively know also is that 23 Anglican Christians at the time were killed, but also 22 who were Catholics were also killed for no more reason other than being, Christians and believing that, well, Jesus is my Lord. We're going to have this short one when we come. Nancy is taking us through the whole story of Martyrs, with of course the pictures that you see around. We should be able to enjoy the story today. It is Faces of Uganda.
bananga bami n'abakyala naze kubanyonnyola nti bw'oba ng'olina omukono gwonna gw'olina oyagala kuyingira ennyumba, olina ronki gy'okola, olina woteeri, olina embaga, olina olumbe, olina buli kalonde yonna ng'oyagala bagutere ku Zoom, YouTube wamu ne ku Facebook. Njagala kugamba nti EastTV be basobola okubeera nga bakikolerako bulungi nnyo, balina kamera ennungi nkambwe, balikirya nnyo, bamanyi kibakola, eby'Oluzungu, eby'Oluganda, eby'Olunyankole, buli kalonde yonna baguteerako buteezi. N'olwekyo mukwano gyaffe
EastTV, empowering you.
Thank you very much. Welcome back. The picture you see on your screen is the killing, and I think this was by stoning of Stephen. We have always heard that this was the first martyr in the Bible. Now, Nancy, this is your show. Where are we starting from?
Like you've heard, we are beginning from here, and basically there are very many, but what we bring out is the persecution in the early church.
Okay.
We don't want people to think that persecution started with the martyrs.
Yes.
The persecution started in the Bible, and basically we look at people like Simon Peter. We look at Stephen in the Bible, and then we look at the Colosseum Church in Rome, where most people are killed, and basically then the Emperor So we look at how before we even talk about the Martyrs, how was persecution doing?
Okay.
And we know it was there.
So under his leadership, we say there was a lot of persecution. Okay.
There was a lot of persecution.
Very, very pretty.
So we cross after the persecution in the Bible, and in the early church we cross to the coming of the gospel to Uganda. So when the gospel came in, we look at people like King Mutesa. Those are people that received the gospel. We look at people like Mackay, the missionary, the first missionary that came to Uganda and preached the gospel. Then, in the same timing, we look at Bishop Hannington. Bishop Hannington was among the first martyrs. Bishop Hannington was the first bishop of Eastern Equatorial Africa.
Okay. I think that was 1 year after Mwanga had served.
So when he came in,
yes,
he was martyred. But at the time of killing him, he told that, go tell Mwanga that I've purchased the road to Uganda with my blood.
That was a second.
You know what it means?
Wow. So before we perhaps get to the killing of Bishop Hannington, we could first roll back. Do you know anything about the story of this king? What could have implored him killing these people? Or what could have happened slightly before the killing started?
King Mutesa did not kill.
Yeah, I understand.
He actually
transitioned to
the missionary, and that is the time when we received missionary society and they started preaching the gospel. Until when, like transition of leaders, so when we were transitioning from one leader to another.
Yes.
And that was the time for Mwanga to come in. And that is how Bishop Hannington fell in.
So Mwanga came in at a time, I think, so before he came in, he already had like resentments towards
because he was not Christian.
Yes.
Mwanga was not Christian. So he had nothing to do with Christianity.
Okay. Yes, over there, in case you just joined, we are still telling the story of Martyrs, and the stage we are at is actually when when Christianity entered Uganda, and we are told Kabaka Mutesa I invited missionaries to Uganda. You remember the popular letter that we looked at in social studies. And yes, so Alexander Mackay and Robert, this is Ash. Okay. So these were some of the first missionaries to Uganda. Quite important over there. And then this picture?
And these ones were Catholics that were martyred.
So these also...
These ones actually came to Uganda. They were not Ugandans, they were from Algeria. They came to Uganda.
Okay. Oh, yes. Okay. So I think what followed was the killing of... wasn't this a message to the British that you guys are coming, but I don't want you around?
It was one person, for God's sake.
Yes.
It was one person, so the kind of it's just one person, and then things are convincing, and then at some point you are okay, then something results again.
Okay.
So that is how it happened.
Yes. Let's look at
this was the Busoga. Actually, the Busoga in the killing, it was an order from the Busoga land. So the Busoga is the one who took over. One thing you should know is that the top leaders in most cases don't take part in the killing.
They usually have people
they have people under who, and that is why in history you can never you find any leader that has done the killing themselves. They end.
So he was the person that murdered him.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Then these are his words, his last words.
Go tell Mwanga that I have purchased the road to Uganda with my blood. And Mwanga was like, okay.
He accepted, and this is how he was tortured.
Okay. That was on 29th October 1985. Being dragged to the site where he was killed. Oh my. Over there. Now that was the coming of the gospel to Uganda. What next?
Then we move to the martyrdom.
Okay, now this.
So we move to the martyrdom. And the martyrdom, here we basically look at how people were killed, how people were knifed, how people were, tortured and slain. But then you look at the Mwanga at his court with his parishioners, and they were sitting. Then you look at Mukajanga. Mukajanga was the chief executor. Like I said, a big person cannot kill. They don't take part in the action, they only take part in order. So Mukajanga was the chief executor, the person that would take over and put the practical means. Yes. So this is the guy that used to kill.
Mukajanga was not a joke. Okay, so just like Amin had
Maria Mungu, so this one had Mukajanga.
Okay.
Yes. Wow. Then these are the number of Catholics, Ugandans that were killed.
So, one would wonder.
They were young, some were old, but they were of different ages.
So this picture, one would think, was the picture original or it was kind of, added up?
It was original.
Okay.
It was original. Then we move at very many, of course all these ones are for persecution. These are people, how they were killed. You see how this one was facing some other side and then they knifed from behind. So there are different illustrations of how people were killed. Because we wouldn't want to say that this one is basically, we can only say this one is useful Garama, but we'll look at useful Garama. I wouldn't want to talk about him now. Yes, but this is basically how people were killed. Then here,
we were told, and I think from some of the pictures we saw at, we usually see them at the Mugongo, were souls that were torched, they were burned.
Yes, they were burned. We will see that the other side.
Okay, you need to keep around, yes.
So then here we see, before they were killed, people were converting. There were people that were converting, people were being baptized, and all that would torture Mwanga. Mwanga was tortured by that. To see people are reading the Bible, people are being baptized, how? So those are some of the things that would torture him, get him to the madness. So these are some of the people that were being transformed. Then all these ones, these are the names of the people that were murdered. But then we will look a bit of it in details where, how, the other side, when we get to the other side.
So the numbers here 23.
Yes, here 23, here 22.
Okay.
So
the killing of the martyrs.
Yes, here it's still the killing of the martyrs.
So this, I see this reads religious wars in Uganda
after they had murdered them. So there were religious wars. That is what you were asking about.
Yes.
People were interested of why is it happening. And then the religious wars came in and probably led us to the revival, which we are not talking about today.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, you who is still watching us on EAT TV. In case you just joined, we are still profiling and we're looking at what the East African Museum here in Ankole has got to show the public around the martyrdom. Remember that 3rd June, this Friday, is going to be Martyrs Day, and Uganda remembers these faces. Yes, let's move.
So, like we talked about,
yes,
some people were killed by castration, some people were burnt, some people were just speared, some people were just grabbed. So different people died differently and at different times. Here you will see how everyone died. So we show you the date when they were killed. We show you their name.
Yes.
The date on when they were killed.
So for example, we
Yes,
say
and-
Kayizi Chibuka was killed on 31st, 1886.
In Mityana, and
this-
he was castrated.
Ah, okay.
You get it? Exactly. That is what you do.
Nyanja,
So, yes,
John
then you
Third.
see
Namgongo, and he was burned.
Joseph Lugalama,
Yes.
whom we celebrate as Ankole people. We celebrate Lugalama,
Joseph Lugalama.
Lugalama.
Okay, yes.
was killed
On
on
31st.
31st in Busega and was dismembered and burnt. Was
Why?
cut off the arm
Yes.
and then later was burnt.
So why Ankole? How is he connected to Ankole?
He was from Ankole region
Ah,
and he was a Wihima from the Chirolundwa clan.
Ah.
So you heard about the Chirolundwas. But he was from the Chilonda clan and he had probably, by that time he was 11 to 12 years. And even up to now people don't know exactly what he was going to do in Kampala, but we believe that he had gone for work.
so at the time, pastoral work had also, gone to regions like this side.
Yeah, people were going there to work, not to work in church, but to find something to do. So you go,
Gotcha, yeah.
like you go and reach the State House right now, and you're like, I want to work. And then they tell you you're going to be cleaning the bathroom of the president, or you're going to be cleaning.
So he was
the
converted from there.
So
Orphans by-
he was born again from there. He knew his religion, but he was not born again. So when he reached there and got born again, he got baptized and all that, and then they started reading the Bible. And Kawaka was not happy. He was like, no, you cannot take my boys. These are my boys
Okay.
that I wanted to use. Yes, so that is how he was killed.
So when you started, and indeed when you visit Wikipedia, they're going to tell you that martyrs were 23 from the Anglican faith and 22 from the Catholic faith. But when you come to the list, actually you find these, for example, are 25 and these are 24.
Yes.
And also from Wikipedia and different stories, they're going to tell you the massacres, the killings were between the other year up to 1886. But when you realize actually Janan Luwum was killed in 1977,
Yes.
does that make him a martyr?
Yes, it makes him a martyr because he was killed for his faith.
Okay.
A martyr is someone that has died for the faith.
Yes.
So Janan Luwum, it's a different story for another day, but the short and the brief about him is that he was murdered for the faith. Even when he knew he was going to be murdered, he accepted and was like, I want to take up this cup of salvation. Which most people do not stand. He was murdered by the president Idi Amin then.
Okay. This picture here shows him standing with
Exactly.
the president, Archbishop Janan Luwum, with President Idi Amin. Okay.
He was, one thing we always talk about is that Janan Luwum and the president were friends.
Could the museum have the story of what happened? What
Yes,
inspired the death?
we have the whole story about how he started his ministry until when he lost his life. We have that other exhibition.
So briefly, what could have led to?
Janan Luwum stood for the gospel and he started addressing key issues that were happening to the people at the time, addressing them to the president. And the president was not happy, and he thought Janan Luwum wanted to take over the presidential, or was being sent by Obote then. So then they started doing a search and in his home, all that. At a time and up to when he preached a message in Busheni, was going for consecration of Bishop Bamloba by then, and then that message was like, the president was like, you have gone too far, you've gone so far, so you need to go.
Okay.
That is what needs to go.
Wow. So as we celebrate Friday, as we remember Friday, is one of the
He's one of the martyrs.
Okay.
Yes.
You who is watching, you have to know that Janan Luwum also actually has a day, specific day, that is actually remembered.
Okay.
Wow. So let's proceed. Yes.
So we proceed. When you say above, there is martyrs. where and how they were killed.
Yes.
Exactly. So we look at this. This is a burning place, how people were burnt. And then this is how people they would drag them. Then here you see how they were tied up behind and then sent to the fire. It's not a good memory. Yes, but there are different ways of how people were killed. Then there is...
This is Mukajanga or someone else now?
Mukajanga.
Okay.
Then there are people that were tied on a torture tree. A torture tree, I was told in Uganda there is a tree called torture tree, Ndazabazadde tree.
Ndazabazadde.
Yes, it's called Ndazabazadde. So that is, they would tie people there, then they torture them from there until you die. That tree. The Baganda have that.
Okay, the torture tree in the Uganda Martyrs African Museum. Okay.
Yes. Then we continue to see some of the other people and how they were killed and how they were putting firewood on top of them. Basically, we look at how people were killed differently. Then of course we can't fail to look at our people. The first pilgrims in 2013.
That was from the region?
Yes, from the region.
Okay, we're supposed to come back to this. Now, let's get to this history.
Let's get to this one. Most people would wonder if there is an Akole matter.
Yes.
Akole matter. Useful Lugalama was a Akole. He was a Mhima and from the clan of the Chikondwa.
So, Mwene
Chikondwa. And by then, like I said, he was around 11 to 12 years.
So he was among the first?
He was among the first. There were three boys. It was Yusuf Garama, Joseph Kakumba, and Serala.
Okay.
Those were the first three that were murdered. And the other ones are said to have been Catholics. Serwanga and Joseph, but he was Anglican, Protestant. And he was murdered, but he had met prior, he had met people like McKay, the one we looked at, and he was under mentorship of people like McKay, he was under mentorship of Thonen, he was under the mentorship of missionaries. And Kabaka was not interested in that. And he decided to take him off. So this is the whole story about him, but it's just that what I give is just a summary of it. So in case you want to get to know it, you could come to the museum and read it yourself.
So they say he could have been taken as a prisoner of war by the Kabaka Mtesa's command. Then also he could have gotten lost while he was grazing animals.
So you can't read it.
Stories and yes, like she says, you could find some time and come over and read the story. But why this is important is that Yusuf Lugarama, in case you didn't know, he was among the first that wasn't he the first though?
There were three.
Okay.
There were three.
Okay. So among the first that were killed because they believed in Christianity, but also he was from the Ankole region, from the Bahima clan. Yes. Very, very important to note over there.
So when we cross, we look, of course, at the first pilgrims in Ankole. Then we embrace it. And that is in 2013. And these people that you see here have been walking to Namgongo.
Ever since
this year they walked.
Okay.
Yes.
So from Kamkuzi you go to... Why is Kamkuzi church... you said that was the first...
That's where the first church was.
Okay. So I want to believe that when the missionaries came from Uganda, they reached... Because Kamkuzi was the home of the Mugari.
And they were received there, and then they were given a place where to worship. But later they realized, this is a small land, you need to get somewhere bigger. And that's how it came in place. Then these were other missionaries, but Catholic missionaries who also came to Uganda in 1899 after things had happened, so they came as a way to talk to people. You cannot lose hope, you can still do something.
So at the time, I think Mwanga is no more, it's not the sage. And yes, maybe for the story that you want to connect to Mwanga later, of course, when these people came back to, I'm told, when you read the story, after the massacres, after 1886, the Anglican missionaries that came now used the deaths to popularize the talk. More people, of course, like we were saying, started, what is it called? Emphasis.
People started emphasizing Christianity and taking hold of it and embracing what they have.
Exactly, so they started embracing.
They fought Islam because at that time Islam was taking over the whole place.
Okay.
They fought Islam.
And we're still telling the story of how did Mwanga end?
Mwanga later died, but he did not die in the country. He left, he fled and died at the time.
Okay. And articles suggest that he died an Anglican. From wherever he died from, he converted to an Anglican, and quite a number of stories about that. But what you need also important to note is that after the wars we just saw, he was a little bit forced out the throne, and then later was able to convince the missionaries to enthrone him again, but then later, of course, double-crossed and was dethroned again, and that's how he left the country. And when we see this picture being taken 1889, it means the next year was 1900, with the popular agreement of Daudi-Chwa and all that. Yes, I think I saw a picture of Daudi-Chwa somewhere. So we have seen the Catholic faith go ahead to call them saints. And yes.
And in 1964, that is when they canonized all of them. Canonizing is making them a saint, knowing Saint who, Saint something, and then making them popular. This is what it represents. It was done in 1964.
Okay.
And of course, this is the Martyrs, the shrine, the Mbongo Martyrs shrine, where we gather and where we'll be on third.
Okay. Very important to note that also, was it 2015 when the Pope himself came?
Yes, so we'll look at it.
Okay, in case you just joined us, we are still telling the story of Martyrdom. Remember, this week is actually when we celebrate Martyrs Day as Uganda, remembering the people that were actually killed for believing in Christianity. Yes, so here where we are is Martyrs Day celebrations.
Yes, people have celebrated definitely. So we look at how people have celebrated it, how the bishops. This was in 2010, then the procession at the shrine. Then you talked about how when the Pope visited.
Yes.
This is when the Pope visited in 2012.
Okay.
2012, 2015.
15, yes.
2015, the Pope visited, and he also visited the Anglican shrine, not only the Catholic, but he visited both. And then we still here, it's about the 2010 celebrations. And then here, this is how the Martyrs, the Namgongo shrines looks like. It has been advanced and worked on, so it is beautiful, and this is how it is. And of course, we cannot fail to look at what we stand for. We have two themes of you pledge allegiance to the Lamb of God, and also you stand up for Jesus. These are the themes that we have in the museum and for this room. And basically, when we have people who are free and ready, they come in, they sing, and they go back when they are refreshed.
At least I think this is quite popular.
Yes, it's a hymn.
Okay. When I practice very well, I should be able to sing for you the next time. What is in this for people who might not get a chance to
in the shrine, in the Namgongo shrine, you basically know that is a place where some people are buried. Some people are buried there. So you will find a chapel, and that chapel at the altar is where they were buried. So there is like an altar. Then, of course, there are other ways, all the ways that people are martyred and were murdered. So you will find all those monuments, all the sculptures, and then you will find sounds of people crying for help. Then you will find the first pianos, the first keyboards. So you find very many things.
Very historical, and most importantly is actually to pray to God. And I believe some of the words in these songs, I pledge allegiance to the Lamb, refer to the words maybe most of the martyrs could have said at the time. It's been, yes, we have...
And in this, there is something that one by one, they chose to die. This is what the song actually is about. It says that one by one, they chose to die. By the Son of God, for the one who died. They chose to die for the one who died to give us life.
Okay.
Yes, that is something. One by one, they chose to die for the one who gave us life.
Wow. Well, important. The biggest of the day was to make sure that when you come here, you actually get to know the whole story around martyrdom. And in case you're one of those that are following these events, then you need to be sure that Friday, 3rd June, all processions will actually be live on EAT TV, and you don't have actually to miss this. That's what we can actually authoritatively promise you. Talking about that, let's talk about what is yet to happen on Friday and how the region is actually involved.
Oh yes, so I would encourage everyone to attend. You may not be able to go there, but you can get an online site, or any other TV or ATTV, whichever that you can get. Please attend, because Ankole Diocese is taking the lead. Like I said, all the 5 dioceses are taking the lead, and as Ankole, we embrace revival movement, because that is one thing that has kept us moving. And we'll be publishing a book that entails all the people in Ankole region that have been married and have spent 50 years in marriage and above.
50 and above. Okay.
So you can imagine, those are people that are 70 and plus.
Yes.
Apparently, you have people who are 109 years and they are still living. You have people who are 111 years and they are still living, and they are part of our religion. So we'll be publishing very many things, but basically telling people to get back to the revival, get back to the roots, because all these people that we are giving out, they are revival. They are revival people.
Let's describe revival. Revival radio, revival this, revival that.
Revival Museum.
Yes.
Yeah, basically revival is it was a transition that came in 1930, 1929, 1930, and here in Ankole we received a revival in 1935. Okay. So if I am to talk about revival, it's a different story. Okay. But we all know that revival movement started in Gahini. Most people know Gahini, but personally, as a curator, I know Namirembe. And then that was when people started preaching out the gospel. There are pillars of revival that people would follow, and those are the ones that we want to embrace. Can people go back to reading the Bible? Can people go back to witnessing? Can people go back to confession?
Yes.
Can people go back to restitution? Those are things that our society has lost. And we are telling people, you can still be a thief, but you get born again and return someone's sweater. If you stole a sweater, you take it back. If you stole a cow, you take it back.
Yeah, things you might not return, someone stole my
It is okay, but you can still go back and make things right. We believe in making things right.
Very well understood. Let's end with the relevancy of Martyrs Day to everyone else, every other Ugandan. What does it actually mean? What does it teach us Ugandans? Everything to do with that.
Yes. These are the people that died for our faith. Can we die for something? Can you die for something is that a question. Because if someone accepted to die for you, then what do you have to offer? Will you just look at it and let it pass? No way, you can't. So this is a call to each one of us. Let's embrace the Christianity and the faith that we have, and let's not shame our forefathers because they had a lot to lose, but we have a lot to offer. So let's give out the best that we can give.
Okay. Be ready to actually die for Christ and actually remain within Him. For if you're within Him, I've forgotten the verse. But yes, He is the truth, the life,
and the light.
Okay. Yes, and that's how I think we should be able to end this. Nancy could have final one for our viewer, and we should be able to thank you for what you did. Yes.
Thank you so much for watching. We are privileged to receive you at the museum, and please come to the museum at any time. We open from Monday to Friday from 8 to 5. This is our time, and our contacts are there. In case you get lost, come to the cathedral. Come to St. James Cathedral. Definitely, we give a pay. We pay 3,000 per person, and of course, international clients don't pay 3,000. They pay 5,000.
Okay.
Yes. So in case you get lost, come direct to the cathedral and ask for a museum. They will bring you directly.
Okay. Yes, and of course, important to note, it's not only about martyrdom. There is a lot in the museum. Could you summarize what others?
So, like I said, we have the story about the EastAfrican Revival Movement. Then we have the pioneers of the revival movement in Ankole. We have story about how Ankole as a region came in place. Then we also have a story about Janan Loom. And then we also talk about the bishops, the archbishops that we have had as a country. And definitely we have the martyrdom place. Yes.
Okay. Wow, thank you very much, and we thank you, I and the viewers, we thank you very much for allowing to talk to us. For the viewers, we can only ask you that on 3rd June, Friday, you have to actually keep on HTV. We're going to be broadcasting these Martyrs Day celebrations live on Facebook, YouTube, our app, web, and also you can actually listen live from ayid.org/radio. That is going to be all live, and we actually use it to grow our strength in Christianity, just like you put it.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
In case you are a reader, we also have a resource center.
Okay.
We have a resource center and we have books for you to read. This information, you might say, you talked about this, and I think I know something different. So we believe in reading, so you can come, get a book, sit down and read. In case you want to pray, we also have somewhere you can go and pray from. We have a good environment. So you are welcome at any cost.
Okay. Wow, thank you very much. You're welcome. And I think that's how we end today's episode. Keep around for more shows. Always, we have a number of them, and in case you have events, we also leverage on live streaming events to Facebook and YouTube, where you can actually access more people. But big thanks to our Dr. Sheldon Westwell, who is also the Bishop of the Ankole Diocese. We are so much indebted to you. I saw the museum itself was launched in 2016, and it was him and the president that led, the launch. We have seen Revival Radio, we have seen the building that we recently launched, Bishop Stewart University over there, quite a number of those projects that we believe the church actually should be doing in the community, and we thank you very much. With that, we can only connect in the next episode on next Wednesday, 5 p.m. in the show called Faces of Uganda, just like you watch this. Thank you very much. Ciao, adios.